In this episode, I'm talking about architecting the shadows, about the whole idea of shadow IT, shadow business models, and even shadow management. For example, when we think about a classic sergeant's mess, it's actually a kind of shadow management. It's dealing with the bits that don't fit the main structure and yet are still within the main concerns, the main focus. In business, shadow IT and shadow business models are how bottom-up experiments are done and how they're proven in real-world practice. So we do need to support the shadow. It's really important that we don't try to prevent it. The kind of top-down architecture police just doesn't work because it destroys a lot of this experimentation that we need to have happen. So what we need to do is to find a good way to support it. One of the ways is, for example, is to focus on things like shared services, that rather than the risk of having 14 or 50 or several hundred different versions of customer and different definitions of how customer is collected in terms of data, we focus on having a single source of truth that people can access as services, as shared services, and then connect through from there. We also need to be really careful about the status of shadow. It's not something that we want to control. As soon as we try to control it in any kind of heavy-handed way, it actually ceases to be shadow and therefore doesn't work. So we need to have that kind of separation, that allowance, that sort of quietly in the shadows, and yet we also need to monitor it, because often if there's something really useful, we want to have it there. Another one is that we want to keep it on purpose as opposed to suddenly wandering off on its own directions. We've obviously got to monitor it for any kind of questionable behaviour. But it's also important that we don't let it become business critical, because particularly in enterprise architecture, my personal experience has been that we've ended up with vast numbers of little business spreadsheets scattered all over the place that no one knows now who actually wrote it. No one's maintaining it, but it's become completely business critical for that particular domain. One of our reasons for keeping track of shadow is to make sure that that doesn't happen. So we want the shadow, we want shadow IT, we want even shadows business models, we even want, in the sergeant's mess kind of style, a kind of shadow business management that deals with the things that fit between the cracks. But we do need to keep it on purpose, we do need to keep track of it, we need to keep certain of what's going on and learn from it as well and pass those learnings around. Now, in the next episode, I'll talk more about how we take from shadow into the mainstream. But the main point now is we need to architect for the shadow rather than trying to prevent it.